Please welcome the Pylon Reenactment Society.
Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Gwinnett County. I grew up from the 3rd grade to the 12th grade and at Decula.
Okay, that's where we live up by there now.
Yeah.
Very cool. What year did you move to Athens?
1973. Yeah, so you've lived in Athens your whole life, right?
I moved there in 80.
Oh, okay.
So I was 5 when we moved to town.
Oh.
So it was crazy. The B-52s just taken off. Georgia just won the national championship with Herschel.
Yeah, yeah.
It was booming. Not like it's booming now. I don't even recognize the town hardly. They've built so much stuff here.
Oh, yeah. It's like just nuts now.
What were you going to school for? I know you were...
I have a degree in drawing and painting from the UGA art school. And after Pylon broke up the second time, I looked at that as an opportunity to change careers because I had been working for Kinko's a long time.
The one downtown?
No, Bob worked at the one downtown. No, I worked at the one on Baxter that you probably don't remember because it was very small, and then ended up moving and becoming a superstore. And then I opened a store out at Mission Square, kind of across from the mall, the Pink Mall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I knew that you... What kind of music were you into back then? Like when you were growing up and subsequently like in this college and stuff?
Well,
you were a Ramones girl for a little bit, weren't you? Like you were into punk stuff?
Oh, yeah. Well, growing up, I listened to what was on the radio a lot. Also liked the Beatles. There were a lot of youth-oriented TV shows that had a lot of bands, like Herman's Hermits, Paul Revere and the Raiders, and, so on. The Mamas and the Papas, all of that. But when I was in high school, I discovered that on my transistor radio at night that I could pick up a Chicago radio station.
Huh.
And that's the first time I heard Jimi Hendrix.
It was all over from there.
That was kind of about the time that album-oriented rock started, when they would play longer tracks that actually came from an album.
Dad tells the story one time. He said that you were one of the first people he met. He was big into the Ramones and kind of into that punk scene. And I think when he came to Athens, I forget the year, but it was mid-'70s. He had he describes it as a punk rock haircut and leather jacket. And back then in Athens, that wasn't like super hip yet. But he was talking about how when he met you, you were asking him, are you into that kind of thing? And he said that you would do like a sock hop sort of thing every Tuesday or something, as he describes it. But then I talked to Mom, and she was like, I think she used to do like a pajamas kind of party. But it sounds like you were kind of the center of the ecosystem as far as like, I don't know, how do you describe? You were just a happening girl back then.
Well, I had time on my hands after I graduated from art school. My first husband couldn't seem to graduate. He kept changing his major, so I kind of got stuck in town. And fortunately, I found a weekend job at DuPont, and then I got a job at a store downtown, to supplement that. But it wasn't like when I was in art school where I had all these projects in school and whatever. All I had to do was work, so I had, I was young. I had a lot of time on my hands. I wouldn't say that I was the center of attention necessarily, but my future bandmates and we were part of a bunch of art students who hung out together and would have parties and play vinyl and dance and, drink beer and whatnot. Would share our record collection with each other. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no doubt. Where were you living in Athens back then?
Well, I did have lived for a while right after school over here on Carr's Hill, which is very close to here in Nucci space, just across the river. But then I broke up with my first husband, and I moved in with this guy. He was in Limbo District, Craig Woodall, and he had an apartment that was downstairs in this apartment building right in Five Points. It was really old and really old, drafty basement apartment. And, Limbo District started practicing together, after I moved in. And so I knew all of them. And then I moved out to Meg Street, and was just down the street from Jeremy Ayers, who had written lyrics for 52 Girls and whatever. All these people went to the same parties. It's what made the scene,
Mm-hmm. I realized the other day that I've been saying Michael's name wrong for 40 plus years. I always used to say Lakowski, but it is not Lakowski, right?
No, it's Lahusky.
Damn it.
You're so close, but you're not the only one who does it. And he's always very polite about that,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard him correct anybody,
I remember him as a kid because he was so tall, and I was fascinated with him because of his height. But we lived on the same side of Boulevard, but a block over from Diana and Curtis. Mm-hmm. When Curtis used to drive that Volkswagen truck that he had, you know what I'm talking about? And Kenneth King lived in front of us. Calvin Smith lived down the way. Deanna Mann would just show up and hang out. So we had this cool little circuit of people that lived. This was before Boulevard was damn fortune to live in.
Yeah.
But it was a cool little part of town, and people would come
Back
and go.
when you could still buy a house for $10,000.
Right.
I wish I'd had 2 nickels to rub together back then and bought some real estate.
Oh, no shit. God. How did you? So you met Michael in school, and I think I read or listened. Y'all worked together out of the DuPont place.
Yes, we were on different shifts, but sometimes we would work together. Would definitely pass each other, and of course, Michael's roommate was Randy Bewley, and they started getting the idea of this band together, Pylon, in fall of 1978, Randy had to seriously talk Michael into it because at that point Michael was like, it's already all been done, you know. And so it was like an art project. And so at first Randy was playing drums and then Michael was playing bass, but they weren't really getting too far. So Randy switched over to guitar. Curtis heard him practicing these riffs and songs, you know, through the ceiling. They were living at the Myers building, which is down on College. And Curtis was living in the upper floor, and he was renting out the second floor to students as art studio space. And so Michael and Randy were in there, and Curtis and his friend, you know, were upstairs at what they called their 40-watt club because it just had a 40-watt bulb hanging from the ceiling by wire. And
Was that where that was where the Starbucks was? Is that right?
no, that's across from there.
So he was more on the grill side.
It was directly above the grill.
Okay, got it.
That's the Myers building.
Okay.
At that point in time, you know, downstairs there was a Western Sizzling Steakhouse or something like that. And then it was Schlotsky's.
That's right.
And then it was the grill.
That's okay. I've had this debate with, not debate. I asked Burtis about it because my dad had some confusion trying to figure out I knew that it was the light bulb from the ceiling, but there was a little bit of confusion. I was trying to nail down exactly where it was. So I'm glad you're clear.
Well, when they actually formally opened the club, it was across the street above what was UD's sandwich shop at the time. And upstairs from there, it was empty. So Paul Scales was like the manager of this UD sandwich shop, and Curtis and he had the idea of like opening a club as a shoestring operation because we're seeing some clubs like that touring up north.
It's funny how the town has completely changed, but that main square with the grill and everything has stayed relatively the same. I mean, they haven't knocked anything down yet, or you know, but that was always fun to. When I think about like my childhood, like they would do the Human Rights Festival right there, and I don't know. That's kind of like my main memory of Athens when my parents would let me go out with them to see cool shit. Was
sure,
you know.
And at that point in time when they were first getting together, a lot of downtown had started moving out to the mall.
That's right.
A little bit after that, so it was pretty empty. There were a lot of empty spaces. You know, it was very inexpensive to live here.
Did you know Fred and Kate and them early, like before they started going crazy with?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I thought y'all were friends back then.
Yeah. I had met them through. I had a friend named Phyllis. He was there. She did like routines before they played. It's kind of like almost like a gong show kind of thing. Like she might come out as a hypnotized waitress and and have a tray that she had a prism suspended over it, and you know she would play old records, or she might dress up like a Western cowgirl with a little fake riding horse that she would ride around on, and you know do a routine. But I was friends with her in painting school, and she worked over at the El Dorado, which was a vegetarian restaurant, which is where the Morton is now, downstairs. And that's where I first met Fred, and then later on through her, Kate. And so I heard all about them before they ever played and had met, you know, several of them. I didn't get to see them until the third time they played because I didn't have a car. And the third time they played where the Last Resort is. It was called the Last Resort then, but back then it was a music place.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Interesting. Yeah, and I think the Bluebird was there for a little while, wasn't it? Where the Morton was?
Yeah, it was kind of almost the same menu and a lot of the same people.
Okay. That was a cool spot to go to. I remember going there.
I didn't know my husband back then. Now I'm Bob Hay, who ended up being in the squalls, but he worked at the El Dorado and drew their menus, sometimes was a waiter, sometimes a cook. And he ended up practicing in the bloodletting room where the B-52s had played.
That's right, because Kenny Starrett, I think, said that he used to have a part of that space. I don't know if it was a practice space or what he was doing in there, but I remember him on Marlene's podcast talking about giving some of that room for them to practice in there.
Yeah, I didn't know him back then, so I can't speak to that.
That's all good. I was friends with his kiddo, Yorma.
Yeah, I know Yorma.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a long time, but we used to bust bottles on the railroad tracks behind Tyrone's when we were kids. But that was back then. It was, I mean, we were everywhere. We were with our folks, and so Dad and Kenny would be hanging out doing something. Me and Yorma would break off and go do something else. And
yeah, it was actually fairly safe back then.
It was, yeah. I think about we would skate all around town and take the UGA bus to Tate Center, play video games. I would never let my kids do that now.
No, it was there's too many cars and too many people, and it's just too crazy, you know.
Mm-hmm. When was the first time y'all played together after y'all linked up and started the band?
With Pylon? Well, moving forward, you know, I was talking how they got together in 78, and then early 79, they started auditioning some people to be the singer for their band, and I hadn't really paid any attention to what they were doing like that. I'd see them at parties and stuff. Supposedly, they'd audition a couple of guys that didn't work out, one of whom brought in a guitar and had quote-unquote ideas. Mm-hmm. But what they were looking for was somebody that was kind of on their same art school wavelength that would form the sounds and stuff all together. Valentine's Day 1979, Randy came into where I was working downtown and asked if I wanted to come audition. I was like, well, sure. You know, I'm thinking to myself, I'm stuck in town. I don't have anything to do really other than work. Sounds like fun. So I went down and they had a music stand set up with some lyrics already written that Michael had written. And they would play the song, and then I would try something. So then they were like, okay, well, thanks a lot. And then I left, and I was like, well, what's that all about? And the next day, Randy called me up, and he said, you're in. We couldn't they couldn't hear everything I was doing, but they liked me and saw that I was open, you know, to trying something different. So then March 9th, 1979, not even 3 weeks later, we played upstairs at the Chapter 3 record store, which was across from the Arches. There was no 40 Watt, no Starbucks or anything yet. But if you go to, I think the very next store next to where Starbucks is, there was a really great record store called Chapter 3 Records. We used to go there and hang out a lot. And so they said we could play upstairs if we cleaned it up. And so Michael and Randy and Curtis went up there and cleared it all out. You know, there was all this pigeon dust and Lord knows what all up there. And that's where we played the first time.
Interesting. How long was it before y'all, what was the first album y'all did? There was the EP, which I really like. Was it Chomp?
Well,
I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but...
Yeah, well, it's okay. You know, coming forward a little bit, just, you know, like a month or two later, we played probably our fifth or sixth show out in the country, and up until that point, people didn't really know what to make of us. It wasn't really like anything they were used to. They would just stare at us, and I was starting to think, are we really horrible? Is this, you know, what is going on here? And the B-52s all came to see us. You know, they'd heard, oh, Vanessa's in the band, let's go see them. And we played at this place out in the country, Oglethorpe County, called the Brick House, and there's an artist who still lives out there. But at that point, it was kind of like this old almost abandoned mansion that these artists had taken over. It was in, field and woods and nothing really around it. So B-52s came out, and as soon as they came in and heard us, they all started dancing like maniacs. And then everybody else started dancing too. And it was almost like the room was a giant speaker box. You could feel the wind rushing in and out. So after that, they were like, you've got to come to New York. We'll help you get there. And so they had a friend named Robert Molnar. He was the doorman at the Mud Club, and he pretty much knew everybody. So he took our tape around to various places, and this big club the Bees had played at called Hurrah said, we'll book you. And so, they named a couple of bands, going back and forth with Michael, and was like, no, I don't think so, no. I mean, who are we? Be turning down some gig in New York, but, we knew kind of like what we wanted to be associated with them. Then they said the Gang of Four coming from England, and we were big fans of their single that had like Armalite Rifle on it. That hadn't been out. I think it had come out in 1979 or 78. And so, sure, And so that was in August. So we played our first real show in March. And in August, we were opening for a really hot British band in New York. The whole premise of the band had been, Randy had explained to me, is that we were going to go to New York, get written up in New York Rocker, and disband. Just a few months after that, we recorded our first single, which came out in January 1980. It did so well. It was on all of the top 10 lists, of all the indie stuff back then. Danny Beard, who had put it out, he said, let's record an album. And so we went in, and I think it was June, recorded it, August, took it to New York and mastered it at the record plant with Greg, what is his name? Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. He's really famous, though. They can read the back of the album. And then it came out in November 1980, and it was the album was called Gyrate.
Yes.
But it was also released at the same time in England, but a slightly different order of songs. And then, because we didn't put the first single on there, the British label put it out an EP, a 10-inch that had our single Cool Dub on it, along with a configuration, a remix of our song Danger, and I forget the fourth song.
I love that Cool Dub.
Yeah, and there are DJs all over the place that still play that EP version of Danger. And so, then we were like playing all over the country and went to England in December 1980 and opening for the Gang of Four, some segments of their tours, and playing with a lot of other people.
Did Mitch help on that, or was that later? Mitch Easter.
He helped with our second album, Chomp.
Forgive me. Continue. I'm getting ahead of myself.
No, that's fine. You got questions, I'll answer them. So, it did pretty well. It came out in, like, I think 6 or 7 other countries. And, like New Zealand, Germany, France, Italy. Italy did real well in Italy. So then Danny said, let's do another album. But at that point, we were touring so much that it was kind of hard to get the time to go into the studio. And then, after we'd recorded a few songs, Randy said, we need to get, some real producers. We had been working with the same guy that worked with us on the first album. He thought of Chris Stamey. So he called Chris Stamey. He was at that time in England on a sheep farm or something, called long distance and talked to him about it. So he came in, and Gene Holder, he worked with him, came in to engineer, and then it was done at Mitch Easter's drive-in studio. So he did some engineering, and back then, it isn't like now where mixing is all automated. So when you go to actually mix something and change levels while the mix is happening at that very moment, you might have everybody in there turning knobs or bringing levels up at the same time. They might tell me, okay, this is your knob. When it gets to this part, you need to turn it up and then back down.
Wow.
So they trusted me with one knob a couple of times. So, which is really funny. But, it was all analog back then. It was all on, I guess that's 2-inch tape.
Yeah.
And then the mix down would be done onto, I guess, a 1/2-inch or 1/4-inch tape. So that came out in 1983. But at that point, we'd run into a couple of things that happened to us along the way that made us decide, let's quit while we're ahead, while we're still having fun.
Right.
And so we broke up December 1st, 1983, the first time.
Because didn't y'all open for like U2 or something crazy?
Yeah, we did.
Wow.
Our booking agent, without talking to us, had jumped the gun and booked the entire first North American tour for us with U2. And we were like, wait a minute, no. This is not really our thing, It
was moving fast.
Well, it's like if you go open for somebody who's like God or whatever,
yeah,
nobody wants to see you.
And
they're not like really your fans, and they're not really into what you're doing. They're, it's. So we agreed to do some of those first ones just so he wouldn't completely have egg on his face. And I got to meet all of them. Bono was real nice.
I could imagine.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, nothing versus U2, it just wasn't our thing. The scene at that time, independent kind of music had really broken over into arena rock, which is what that was, arena or stadium. And so we were used to saying, we want to play these places and we want to play with these people. So that's what happened. Nothing against U2.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's cool that y'all would have I was just trying to imagine myself in a situation like that where you're maybe doing something that wasn't like what y'all had initially set out to do, or maybe, I don't know, I don't want to put you in a box, but if it was me, I could see how I don't know, is the record business kind of weird like that? Like, do you lose a little bit of control and feel like you're kind of being pushed?
We never really had that problem.
Oh, good.
because we didn't allow it. And I think that REM didn't have that problem either.
Well,
They remained true to what they were doing right from the beginning.
Totally.
But when we came back together, and part of it was at the encouragement of REM, as after I had my first daughter, we decided to get back together in 1988 and treat it more business-like this time around. At that point, we did open some arena shows for REM and for the B-52s.
Oh, cool.
But by then, not the music business, but the fans that kind of come around to the indie scene. You know, I hate to use that term, but it's the closest thing I can think of now.
Well, I was going to ask you how you categorize. People throw around the term like new wave, but I didn't feel like y'all fit in that box. So maybe
No,
indie,
not really.
Yeah, indie's a good term, I guess.
Well, there's a broader term that's used now called post-punk. That is the music that was created after punk. Punk was more visceral, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3-chord kind of thing, kind of hearkening back more to 60s type of 50s type of music. Mm-hmm. And post-punk was a little bit more complex, but it had some of the elements of punk about it, and it was a DIY scene.
One of my favorite songs off that Chomp album is Buzz. And I judge a lot of music on how fast it makes me drive. And I love that song. And anyway, there's several on that album that I like, but that's one of my favorites. Is there any, not to jump ahead, but are there any that Reenactment Society, are there any of your favorites that you like doing maybe any more than another?
Oh, to play Pylon music with Pylon Reenactment Society?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, we enjoy playing all of them, and we enjoy playing the ones we've written too. So Pylon Reenactment Society, we kind of skipped Pylon 3.
We did. Please go back.
Yeah, but Pylon 2 also. But we can go back just a little bit to briefly say that when Pylon got back together the second time in the more business-like mode, we did release a third album called Chain on Sky Records. And we worked with Gary Smith, who had Fort Apache Studio near Boston, but came down to work with us at Reflections in Charlotte, which REM had just recorded there. You know, in 91, we broke up again, and then that's when I decided to go back to nursing school.
Okay.
And I went to nursing school, became a nurse in 94, had another daughter in 93 while I was in nursing school. And so I just worked for years there. And one day, Randy came to me, I think it was in 2004, and said, I really miss you guys. Can we get together just to play for fun? And so that's what we did. And in that process of putting the band back together just for fun, we mainly Randy, but I helped too, getting together, putting reissue out of Gyrate and Chomp, because the CD version, when they put those out, was not very good. They put out a CD version of songs from the first two albums called Hits, and they basically just ran it right off the tape. It wasn't mastered or anything, and back then CD quality wasn't very good. So we put out Gyrate Plus and Chomp More because you could add a few more tracks to each.
I didn't know that.
And let's see, you know, and then we got to play some shows, like we went to New York, we went to the West Coast, played a few festivals, played here in Athens a few times, and then Randy passed away in February of 2009, and then, you know, at that point, Pylon broke up because there's not Pylon without the four of us. And going forward a few years from that, in 2014, in between that, I worked on a recording project with a bunch of different people, including, you know, some E6 people and my husband, Bob, and, you know, Bill David, you know, and mandolin.
Bob played guitar?
He played acoustic guitar.
Got it. Okay.
And so we put out an album and 3 singles. You know, it was mainly a recording project. We did open for the Bees on some Northeast dates. But anyway, 2013, we just stopped playing. And the next year, Jason came to me and he says, I'm working on this thing called Art Rocks Athens. I'm in charge of putting the music together. You can come and do anything you want. And I said, you know, after thinking about it for a while, let's play some Pylon music, but you're going to have to get me a band together. So basically, he got his band, Casper and the Cookies. He and Kay had worked with me on Supercluster. And their drummer, Gregory, that I hadn't met before, but he's great. And so we played and played 15, 20 minutes or something, and people just went bananas. And I was like, wow, that was a lot of fun. And so, you know, then I just kind of forgot about it, put it up on the shelf in my brain, my library brain or whatever. That was a good experience. And then a year later, he came to me and he says, Art Rocks Athens is doing it again, and we want you to play again, but you'll have more time. I said, okay, well, let's get this band back together. He says, well, we've got a problem. The drummer, our drummer, he needs shoulder surgery, so we've got to find another drummer. So he came up with the idea of getting Joe Rowe, who played with the Glands, and I had the idea of bringing in Damon Denton, who's a concert pianist over at UGA, to come and play some of the keyboard parts and maybe add some more keyboard parts that Randy and I have played on Chomp. And so we played again, and, it went really well. And Dressy Bessie heard about this, a Colorado indie punk band, and said, we're coming down to play in Georgia and North Carolina. Will you come and play some shows with us? And I was like, people are paid to hear this? I was like, all right. I was like, okay, let's do it. And so then we just started getting booked. People would just contact us, and we recorded an EP of some Pylon songs at a studio in LA before we played a part-time punks festival there, and KXLU used it, some of it on a promo CD. And when we were going out, we had a PR person who said, I really need some music to send them. And I remember this tape from that show, and she listened to it. Her name is Michelle Roach. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned it before. And she said, this is great. You need to put it out. So we, paid to have it mastered and pressed and everything. And Henry Owings from Chuntlet put it out. And so then, we couldn't help it. We were writing music. And right before the pandemic hit, we were about to go in the studio and record an album. And then that kind of got put on the back burner during the pandemic. Joe and Damon kind of said they wanted to work on their own stuff. So by then, Gregory was healed up. We came back and had to relearn and everything, and we wrote some more and recorded an album, and it came out last year.
A trailer in the field, be persuaded. Remember who you are, angel from nowhere. Flowers grow everywhere. Dance alone in your room, fall without a care. You must be brave to live out here, to get away, get away. Watching funny cartoons, eating cereal. Remembering the sky outside, close by. Flowers grow everywhere.
You did that. Was that with David Barbie?
Is it David Barbie Studio?
Chase I forget how to say it.
Yeah.
I just say David Barbie's place.
Yeah, David Barbie's place. Chase Park Transduction Studio.
David, could you have chosen an easier name?
Oh, that's no fun. I like the transduction part, though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so he's a really cool guy. So we also tracked some of it at Sebvon Studio with Tom Ashton. Outside of town here, he has a studio called Sebvon. And he played with the band called the March Violets from England. He's British and really great guy. So David mixed almost all of the album except for one song, and he got sick.
Goodness. Yeah, I think David just had knee surgery. I think he had knee replacement surgery. We're supposed to get together at some point, but he's been kind to me, to say the least. It's always, I think early on I had asked him for some help. I had done an interview here with one of the Nucci's people, and it had come out bad because we did it in Linda's office and the road noise. And I sent it to him, and he was like, he was super cool, but he was like, sounds like shit. No, he didn't say that, but
yeah.
He's been super nice.
Well, yeah, it's so much better to come into an empty, quiet room.
Yeah, there's usually somebody jamming next door. You can kind of hear it, but
yeah, but not today.
That's pretty quiet today.
I think I've practiced in every one of these rooms at one point.
Your voice, you have such a cool voice on all those albums. It's very, I want to say melodic, but I love the way you sing. And your singing voice is very different from your speaking voice. I don't know I'm sure you've heard that before, but you have a very cool voice on those albums.
Well, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Maybe I should sing everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about, and you, when I was growing up, I knew like Chickasaw Mud Puppies, the Flat Duo Jets, the Squalls, Strawberry Flats, Barbecue Killers. There was a lot of music going on. Who did you dig back in the day? Like, was there any band that was kind of in your playlist back in the day that was Athens based? Or who were you digging? I know it's been a little bit.
That particular time period. Well, of course, the B-52s and REM, Love Tractor, Squalls. I liked Barbecue Killers. As far as a playlist, and I really like Limbo District, but they only recently had their things put out. They didn't have any recordings out back then.
Oh, okay.
Although they recorded. They kind of, I don't even know if they were together a solid year. They were like, they came, they saw, they conquered, they were gone, There was a lot of internal, and the first band we ever played with I liked a lot called Tone Tones. And they had Dana Downs and Vic Varney and David Gamble, who all went on to, other projects.
I know the name Paul Scales because was he involved at Tyrone's at some point?
Not that I'm aware of.
But I know that name. He's a very
Paul
recognized.
Scales was involved with the 40 Raw early on.
That's right. Yep, I got my stuff mixed up.
It was easy to do,
There's so many funky little players around town that, like Rick the Printer was kind of I don't know if you knew him.
Oh yeah, everybody knew Rick the Printer.
Everybody knew Rick. Who do you listen to now? Like, has your taste changed at all? Or is there any new artists that are out that you're kind of digging?
Last year, as far as new albums, I like the Kim Gordon album. I like the Sleater Kinney album. I like that Elvis Costello album he did. I forget what the name of that project was. They came out on New West.
Is a new one?
Yeah, it's really good. I've listened to pretty much anything you can imagine. As far as new bands in town, there's like Asymptomatics, Hotel Fiction. Oliver Domingo, anything he's involved in is good. I'm going to get his band's name is Organically Programmed Orchestra. Okay, talk about a long name. But they played with us for our album release show. And it's a multi-generational band. Oliver was a senior in high school last year when they opened for us. So he's not much older now, but he's a little boy genius, he is. And he's got John Fernandez is playing on that with him. And, he's got, female background singers, a lot of lush orchestration with these keyboards,
There's two things that have happened recently that I'm so mad at myself for missing. One was the B-52s when they came and played the Classic Center. I don't know why the hell I spaced out on that. The second one, and I had plenty of forenotice, was when everybody from REM jumped up on stage at the 40 Watt not too long ago. Burtis had kind of told everybody, hey, not in so many words.
I went the second night, and they jumped up there again.
Isn't that cool? Isn't that kind of a special moment?
It was so good.
Yeah.
Tony, what is his name? Michael Shannon.
Michael Shannon, yes.
He is such a great singer.
I had no idea.
He was really channeling it. I understand they're going to come back next year.
I will definitely be here for that. He's passionate about that music, obviously, you can tell. It was kind of neat. They did the Athens Uncovered thing at the Foundry. And I tell you, another band I slept on that I knew the name and didn't know anything about them, 5/8. Mm-hmm. Mike came out and they did Weirdo. And I was like, holy shit. It was he's just a performer,
Oh, yeah, I love 5/8.
Oh, my God.
I thought you were talking about brand new bands.
No, I'm sorry. But they're still out there doing it,
Yeah. Well, absolutely. They went to South by Southwest, and they put out another record, I believe. And they also, but the year before that, some of them were in the Bad Ends.
I've heard about them.
And it's very good, too.
Well, at that Athens Uncovered thing, he did Weirdo, and then Bill Berry got up there, and they did Everybody Hurts, and Michael had come in the side door, was standing there, and I was thinking, surely he's going to get on stage and do a song, and he didn't. And, everybody, he's kind of, I had listened to a podcast where he talked about he had kind of moved on from REM, and, so I was surprised to read and somebody posted that they had jumped up on stage, but Michael looked like he got into it and was having a good time.
Oh, yeah. I understand even more so the second night, which I was lucky to see.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's cool to meet you. I'm trying to think. I know I'm going to forget something. I've seen some pictures. Was it Cindy's birthday a couple years ago at the 40 Watt? They did a little birthday party for her. Is that right? I thought I saw a picture where you were hanging out with her at one point. Anyway, I need to know her skincare routine because she still looks great. And I feel old as shit.
I'm sure some of it is just genetic. She's just naturally beautiful.
Yeah.
And has always been.
Yeah. Did you make it out to the show when they came to the Classic Center?
The Classic Center? Yeah, I was there.
How was that?
It was great.
Oh, God. I can't believe I missed that.
Sounded better. It was at the Athens Arena. Actually sounded better than the Classic Center.
I think Marshall Tucker's band is... I have this wide variety of music I listen to, but they're coming to the Classic Center, and I might go check that out just because.
Marshall Tucker, yeah.
I might go check them out.
Yeah, cool.
I've got a wide variety of music that I listen to.
Yeah.
Well, what do you do what do you enjoy doing in your spare time? What keeps you busy now that you're in retirement?
Writing, painting, doing social media for Pylon Reenactment Society. Mm-hmm. We're self-managed, and we do everything now except for the booking, We're playing Saturday night.
I was going to say, you got some shows coming up. Where are you playing Saturday?
We're playing at the Nowhere Bar.
Nice.
And then, we have some other shows coming up, but September we're going to play Memphis, Tennessee at Goner Fest. GONER Fest. It's for Goner Records,
Okay.
Which is a big record store and a label in Memphis. And they put on this 3-day festival every year.
I had no idea. Goner Fest. I'll look it up.
Yeah. They got some pretty cool bands that were announced to play with us. We were in the first announcement. I'm trying to remember. I think Silkworm is playing. Sharp Pins. They're from Chicago. Well, it was a solo artist, but I think he's kind of expanded it out with the band. You might like them. You should check them out.
I will. It seems like the Nowhere Bar has been getting... Back when I knew the Nowhere Bar, I was working at Uptown and subsequently the theater. But they've had a lot more bands coming in there than I remember. Like, it was always kind of a bar when I went there. But they've got a whole stage set up now. They've had a lot
I've
of
never
people.
played there before. So to be something new, George really wanted to get us in there. And Jason had played there with several different projects. So, he says it's a good place to play. It sounds good. So
I'm going to try to come check it out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. I'll definitely put that on the show notes, the Saturday date and then the Goner Fest thing. But it's so good to meet you. I've known who you were for a long time, but I was always this little young whippersnapper running around town and didn't ever have a chance to meet you. So it's cool to finally put a name with a face and talk to you. I knew Curtis and knew Michael, just was missing the lead singer.
That's right. Did you ever meet Randy?
I didn't know Randy, I don't think.
He knew a lot of guys about your age through his sons, That's why I was wondering.
Or maybe I did know him, and I just don't recall. I only remember Curtis because they lived right down the street.
Yeah.
And Michael was just this really tall dude. So he was
And
hard
Randy
to miss.
was a real tall dude,
Was he?
too. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to
They
go
were
look
about the same height and size.
How's Michael doing? He's still working at the...
He's at the Georgia Museum of Art.
Good. He's doing well.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Any chance he'll hop up on stage with you at some point? Or is he...
He and Curtis have both come on stage with us
Good.
a few times. I never really forced the issue.
Yeah.
But, they have.
Good.
If we had time to practice this week, I might ask him this week. But I think Curtis is spending a lot of time in Atlanta right now.
Good. We've had a lot of angst at our house about, and I bring this up only because I know you're pretty outspoken, or I shouldn't say you're outspoken, but this political climate we're in is a mess.
Yeah.
We've been real stressed out about it, especially my girlfriend, just, with everything they're doing, shitting on everybody. How do you find peace from that stuff? Is it your painting? Is that what kind of takes your mind off all this craziness?
Well, yeah. That and being with my family and friends and making music. You have to realize I survived Reagan, too.
Yeah.
So, but this is a whole another level, and we're going to need every one of our friends, and we need to let our representatives and Congress people know how we feel. It's just mind-boggling. There's so many different things being attacked at once. It's like our country is under attack.
It's just a full-on onslaught on everything.
Yeah. And, I remember that from the first time he was president, even though he wasn't doing all this stuff. He had to kind of stir the pot and get attention every single day.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it was so pleasant to have Joe Biden in office.
Just to chill for a little bit.
Chill for a while.
Good Lord.
Just get to work, Well, we're kind of floating, a blue raft floating in the sea of red here, but I don't know how long it'll last because there's, all this crazy stuff. It's like people just have no filter. They say the ugliest things to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like it's all about ideology at this point, too. Like, my side versus your side, regardless of what the issue is, it's just people have just
Well, our country is divided. It's polarized, and we need somebody who can bring us back together.
Yeah. Come on, Obama. Come back. I don't know that he would.
Oh, well, if they say that Trump can run a third time, well, that means Obama can too, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, I'm so glad that you're still doing your thing. It's I had a late introduction to Pylon, but I've been digging it lately. And man, in a weird way, I think I've been reliving a little bit of my childhood with some of these bands that really made Athens what it is in the music scene anyway. So I'm so glad that you're still finding joy getting back out there and
That's
doing
right.
it.
Nobody's going to rob me of my joy.
That's right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. It's so nice to talk to you.